So it says in Aruch Chaim Kuf Tzadi Dalid, saying it's a little bit different than we had the Gemara and the Rambam. It says here, Shlosha shachu ke'echad v'shachu ve'rach kol echad la'atzmo. 3 ate together, but they forgot what to do. They missed the Zimmun. Kol echad la'atzmo. Everybody said the grace. Really, there should have been a Zimmun, but, whatever reason, they didn't. Bitel mehem hazimun, ve'en yuchlim lachzor l'zamein l'mafreya. So this is the case of Yehuda Bar Mamremar and the rest of them. So there's no Zimun, and they can't have some sort of retroactive Zimun. Grace has already been done. Im baruchu shnayim mehem. So too, if 2 said the grace already, they forgot the third guy. The third guy's like, wait, we're supposed to have a Zimun. Too late. And if one guy gets too ahead of himself, he's the one who says his own grace, but now you have 2 people who have to say the grace. They could have a Zimmun with this third fellow who's already said his grace. You could also have the proper response because technically it's true. He says, Baruch Shechan Mishlo Tzbochayinu. These 2 at least can now discharge their obligation to have an invitation to say the grace. But he has not discharged his obligation. Why? And the Ramah adds, if one for whatever broke away, and he somehow started eating bread with these other 2, other table, join their meal. Here, give me some of that bread. So now he's ruined the Zimun for these 2 he left behind. Okay? But he's actually technically joined that other Zimun. Okay? Well, you can't go back. You missed it. 1 Zimun is enough. So I guess he'd have to start a new meal. Yeah. Okay. Start again. Take a walk, do some sort of hefsek, leave the room, wash his hands again. That's interesting halacha there that the Shulchan Aruch points out. Now, these are extrapolations. The Rambam normally tells us what's strictly in the Gemara, but these are what later poskim felt was the halacha. Rambam continues, 3 ate as one, they ate together. Like we just saw in the Shulchan Aruch. Once again, once a person has somehow had a zimun of some sort, or it's happened, there's no retroactive zimun. There are some cases where we do have retroactive brachas. What bracha is retroactive? Why do they have to mention this? Because Birkas HaMazon is by definition after the eating. A Birkas HaNanim can be retroactive. If a person started eating without a bracha, he doesn't just say, well, I'm halfway through the sandwich, too bad, God. No, he's still, every bite, he's still obligated to say a blessing beforehand. Retroactive bracha on that which he already ate. He swallowed a cup of water, he could still technically say the shachar. He should. Yeah. Well, yeah, drink a little bit more afterwards. Yeah. Okay. Constantly, like every bite, got to do it. What? Yeah. 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 Push it aside. Yeah. There's some sort of ways to do that. You've probably seen these halachas. Yeah. But the point is, the person is always obligated to say these blessings. Hanichnas eitzel achirim. Person ended up, he went in, found others, and he walks in, finds them saying the grace. If he hears them saying Nevarech, right at the beginning, Omer hu oneh acharav baruchum varach, like we saw here. V'im matzah ochlim onim baruch she'achal mishlos v'ocheinu. Amen. So he says amen to what they say. And he's going to say amen to every bracha of the actual Birkat HaMazon there. The Shulchan Aruch has it slightly differently. The Shulchan Aruch Kuf Tzadi Tet. In Bar-Hayim he says, Shlosha achalu behein mevarechim. 3 have eaten together, and now they're saying the grace. V'nechnas echad shelo b'achal, and one who did not eat joins them. Im nichnas kishumer avarech nevarech shachan mishalo. If he walks in at that point, oneh harav baruch uvarach shemo tamid leolam va'ed. A little bit longer than what we had in the Gemara. Did you hear this? Okay. Vim nichnas kishacharim onim baruch shachan mishalo. Oneh acharihem amen. Like the Gemara. So the Shulchan Aruch has added words. So which one are you going to do? So people generally follow the Shulchan Aruch, even though the Talmud has a shorter formula there. Just Baruch and Baruch. So a little bit, what will be the reason for adding these words here? Because it's not really clear. Sometimes a very short blessing is Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo, or Baruch Atah Hashem. Some sort of clarity. Just Baruch and Baruch doesn't really tell you who is blessed and blessed. Yeah, there you go. Makes it a little bit clearer. Well, the same case. Three eights properly, three are benching properly, and someone just walks in, interrupting. So does he say Baruch Barach or Baruch Barach Shemo Tamid Olam V'ayim? Baruch Barach Shemo. What's with that after brachas? I'm very much against it because it's not in the Talmud, it's not in the posting, and it interrupts people. There's one fellow who I think he likes to censor people. They'll give a fellow they'll give an aliyah to the Torah. So there will be a fellow who will start saying the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, and Kidam Hashem. Second, this poor fellow doesn't know what he's in for. Says Baruch Atah Hashem. Mr. Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo is right next to the Amud, right there, and screams Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo, and basically has censored because the guy continues with his bracha. And if the Oleh hasn't realized this the first time, comes time to finish the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, the Torah, and this fellow does again, Baruch Atah Hashem, and Mr. Interruption says, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, and then no one heard the end of the bracha. So you shouldn't do that. Okay? Should not have that. It's not right. Now most synagogues have it that at least during Shemona Esrei, Zeres Shots, people do say that's almost like a rhythm. Baruch Atah Hashem, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Gal Yisrael, Amen. There are some places where they've gone back to the letter of the law, the Vilna Gaon Minhag, for example, the Rambam Minhag, no Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo. So definitely, before you say Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo at one of these yeshivas, first listen. Maybe they're not saying it. Well, okay, but you have to watch out. Sometimes they're not waiting. Okay, they daven at the Churva synagogue, Masikim. They're grunics. There's no Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo, so don't say it. The guy will say Baruch Atah Hashem, Goel Yisrael. Baruch Atah Hashem, Nekabes Nichei Amo Yisrael. No interruption. Don't say Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo, otherwise you'll make it that people cannot hear the end of the bracha. Okay? So watch what you're saying here. What does the Ramah add? Every blessing a person hears, he says Amen. Asara Omer Baruch Elokeinu Umvarach Shemo Tamid Olam Va'em. More of a chiddush. We said the one who comes in hears a Zimmun happening. He says Baruch and Borach. The Shulchan Aruch added Baruch and Borach Shemo Tamid Olam Va'em. And the Ramah says if it's a minion, they're saying Baruch She'achal Mishlo Nevarech Elokeinu She'achal Mishlo. So the one who just entered should say Baruch and Borach. Right? He adds the shame Elokeinu, not just Shemo. Or sorry, Baruch Elokeinu u'Baruch Shemo, u'Barach Shemo. Baruch Elokeinu u'Barach Shemo, like the Shulchan Aruch. What? No, I don't know about that. They count it as a minion. It says normally you need 9. Yeah, sorry, you need 10. Here he's mashing the minion, but he's not mashing the Zimmun. Yeah. So I would say it's contradicting. No, if you have Mizonos, you should join the meal then. You know? But I would say not, because even though now you could say Elokenu, you can't say She'achal Mishalom. So it's a little bit tricky. If you want to be a purist, you make sure all 10 men have proper eatings going on. Here's more from the Rambam. This sugya we said is a little bit more controversial, and actually full of more dayas, more opinions here. Let's get into it. Put on our thinking caps. Rambam says, anybody who says amen to his own blessing is objectionable. What? Can't hear you. Oh, so Spartam are objectionable. I read it right in the Rambam. No. So there's well, it's kind of funny. There's no Spartan here. Why? But there's tons of Spartan all over the place. Okay. Yeah. I remember I was at a Sheva Brachas of a mixed marriage that took place in Brooklyn. Okay. The bride's family are all, straight Ashkenazic, and the Chassid's family, the Hatan's family were straight Spartan. And so the groom's family hosted the Sheva Brachas, everybody at the synagogue, the local Spartan synagogue. That's we're going to have the service there, and there's going to be a Sheva Brachas, at the more Ashkenazic place afterwards for the Shabbos day meal. And the elderly grandfather of the bride wasn't having any of it. He doesn't know Spartan. I don't know what I'm doing. Like he considered himself sort of a posek even. So he was the only member of the whole wedding party who did not attend this service. Okay? Even though the new, his son did and everybody, his grandkids did. Everybody was there, but he didn't go to the thing. He didn't want to. I don't know what I know about it. And I heard him remarking to his friend that, everybody else went to this Spartan synagogue for Shabbos davening. Really? The Spartan have their own synagogues here in Brooklyn? Yeah, they have their own synagogues. They have their own rabbi. They do things their own way. They did. I was like, oh, who'd have known, Spartan exists. But, it turns out there are quite a few Spartan synagogues in this city. Okay? Even once upon a time at a Spartan chief rabbi. So, okay. Yeah. So it says, Goneh achar bracha shehi sof brachot achronot. Here's the Rambam standard. No saying amen after one's own brachos. But if you were to say this amen response after what? Brachot achronot, the last of the series. Hareza mishubach. That is praiseworthy. Begon achar bonei Yerushalayim b'virkat hamazon. After that's the case that everybody knows. V'achar bracha achrona shel kriyat shema arvit. Or after the last blessing of kriyat shema at night. Why not by day? What about Shachris? Rashi said Shachris also. Kriyat Shema is a whole series of brachas before the Shema and after the Shema, right? So why not? He says it after Mariv. So at Mariv, he's not really too worried about a hefsek. We're going to say, Rambam says there's even that extra bracha at the same chutz Mariv. The Rambam has a sort of version like that. And there's going to be a Kaddish. But somehow during the day, there is no interruption because we have the Smicha Gula Tefillah. And others say, no, the old minhag was, unlike the Rambam, you could say Amen after Ga'al Yisrael on Shachris, and that's not a hefsek. Since when is saying Amen at the appropriate place a hefsek? I've always wondered about this also. You will see it there. There are those who were wondering about this. You say Amen after everything the Chazan says. He says Yitzhar Merot, you say Amen. He says Abocher Ba'amo Yisrael Ba'ava, you say Amen. Some people say it quietly, but technically speaking, straight reading is Amen. And even after Ga'al Yisrael, you say Amen. It's not a hefsek because you're supposed to say Amen at that point. That's what we saw in Rashi. So the Rambam has it slightly differently. And there are others who still go back to the oldest minhag. At Mariv, who gave you the right to say Kaddish between Birchos Kriyas Shema and Shmona Esrei? You should just have Shomer Amo Yisrael La'ad, start your Shmona Esrei like you would in the morning. Anybody ever seen a minyan like that? So I've been in a few where they did it like that. Okay? That's the older minhag. So when you say Kaddish at Mariv, just a Kaddish Kabbalah? No, you say a Chatzi Kaddish before Baruch. Some verses, just like at Shachris. Something, Kaddish, Baruch. Okay. So he says, V'chein v'sov kol bracha shehi sov brachot achronot oneba amen achar atzmo. You're going to have end blessings, so you're going to have an amen afterwards. It's not exactly the way Rashi said it. We'll see if there maybe are those who distinguish this. On the page that we saw, I should have printed it. I should have put it there. Rashi gave a very liberal view of when we say amen after our own brachos. That's what we saw. The Tosafos say something that's quite historical. The Gemara mentions one example, Bonei Yerushalayim. So that's the only time we're actually going to do it. That is what you'll find in your typical Ashkenazic machzorim, sidurim, benchers, whatever they have. Bencher itself is a Yiddish word. Okay? I don't know if Yakon is a proper Hebrew word even. Whatever it is, your pamphlet with your blessings, what does it say? The only time you'll have it in our classic liturgy is the one example mentioned in the Gemara. But in Achinami, great Ashkenazic rabbis throughout the ages have acknowledged that perhaps we should be a little bit more liberal with our usage of this self-amen. Okay? Just like they used to do in the olden days. Vilna Gaon, basically, we're going to see also what he has to say about that. According to what the Rambam is saying, you have another bracha following B'nai Yerushalayim. Why amen there? This bracha was instituted in the days of the sages of the Mishnah. It's some sort of addition of al sofi kar brachot shel mazon hi B'nai Yerushalayim. The actual end of the grace after meals is at B'nai Yerushalayim. Why not say amen after this blessing of Kriyat Shema? Avat olam atanu. By the way, is that the morning blessing or the evening blessing? So according to the Rambam, it's both. There's no avarabba according to the Rambam, and according to the one reading the Gemara. Did we see this? Maybe we know. It's in Brachot. It was two daf ago. Okay, and it's also the Vilna Gaon's opinion. Avat olam is both Shachris and Mariv. Unlike the Rosh Hashanah Siddur, which makes a distinction. Avat olam is at night, and avarabba is in the morning. Okay, the Sephardic practice and the Vilna Gaon practice. Like I said, I wouldn't call him a Sparty, but what are you going to do if you keep agreeing with these Spartans? Yeah. Okay. Nusach Sfard. Nusach Sfard is not Spartan. Nusach Sfard is what printers call what Hasidim do. Because it ain't Ashkenaz, so it must be Sfard. Okay? It's almost the, yeah. It's Nishtahen and Nishtaher, as we say. He continues. Okay? So that's what the Rambam says. Really, you shouldn't, this Avas Olam, why don't we say Brach Amen after that? If they should sov brachot rishonot. Okay? If Rambam's acknowledging, even if he's in a minion, he does say a bracha after that. But this is brachot rishonot. One wouldn't say his own amen before Shema after Ohev Amo Yisrael or Habocher B'Amo Yisrael Ba'ava, his own amen. Why? Because he still has some more brachas afterwards. This isn't the end. Yes, these were two brachas so far. Two brachas before Kriyat Shema, but there's still more after Kriyat Shema. And this is the general rule. Brachot shemivarchin otan tefila ladavar, gom brachot shemivarchin lifnei kriyat hamegillah, v'avner hadlakat ner Chanukah, lo yafsik b'amen bein habracha uvein davar sheberech alav. Actually, these brachas are leading into something, so there's no self-amen. You would have said, well, the first night of Hanukkah, I have 3 brachas to say before I light those candles, right? That's a whole series. So the Rambam would say, you make an argument after Shechianu, say amen, right? Kabash for one, no, because you have a mitzvah to do, no amen there. You said 2 brachas leading up to Kriyat Shema, morning and night. There's no amen right before Kriyat Shema. These are as though the bracha of Kriyat Shema. Someone should have asked the question. Good question. Why don't we say a bracha in the morning? Asher kiddusham b'mitzvos v'tzivanu mikro Kriyat Shema, or al Kriyat Shema. It's a mitzvah, isn't it? I said a bracha like that upon putting on my tzitzis and my tefillin and washing my hands. And washing the hands was only a rabbinic enactment. Kriyat Shema is the first mitzvah d'oraisa that we have in this order, right? Why is there no bracha asher kiddusham b'mitzvos v'tzivanu mikro Kriyat Shema or al Kriyat Shema? So too, this Shabbos, someone could have said, wait a minute, they keep telling me Zachor is a Kriya d'oraisa. So why is there no someone getting up there? Asher kiddusham b'mitzvos v'tzivanu mikro Parsha Zachor, or Liz Kors Amalek, or Al Zechiras Amalek, or Al Mechias Amalek, something. Why is there no such blessing? And the answer is, in both cases, Torah reading and Kriyat Shema. When, well, okay, but still you have a mitzvah to remember. Yeah, now you're asking why do we remember Amalek? Because he's still around. And if you question, if you're having trouble figuring out who the Amalek is, then it's a little bit of an issue. Here's how it goes. Instead of having a bracha, the sages didn't give us a bracha al Kriyat Shema, or the Kol Kriyat Shema, because they instituted brachas already before it. There's 2 brachas leading into Kriyat Shema. Those are in place of the Asher Kiddusham b'mitzvos. So too, when a person gets up to read the Torah, whenever, anytime we have a public Torah reading, that bracha, Notena Torah, Asher Bachar Banu, and the one after it, is already in place of Asher Kiddusham b'mitzvos, b'tzivonu, l'torah or something like that. So you're not going to have one before Zachor, even if you claim Zachor is a Doraisa, which I will dispute. I don't think any It's just a misunderstood Tosfos there, like the Vilna Gaon points out. There's a mitzvah to remember Amalek. There's a mitzvah not to forget. There's a mitzvah to destroy him. Toch Kedei, this Kriya that we did, Toch Kedei, the Torah reading, we fulfill two of those commandments at least, not the third. It doesn't mean that the Moshe Rabbeinu came down and said, from now on, the week of my yurtzeit, I want you to take out a Sefer Torah and read Parshas Zachor. Okay? There is no such commandment. The sages have no such record. Okay, let's continue with this. Well, is that? Well, it means a tribute. Oh. Yeah, okay, yes, that's true. Those are the Rabbans, yeah. Yeah. Well, I would think it'd be the Raisa called the Homer we have to say these brachas. Yeah. He says, he continues, Lama lo yane amen achar birkat pirot kayotzi bazeh. Okay? Kayotzi ba. What was it? Yeah. And we're not forgetting. No, I said two out of the three. There are three. There's remember, don't forget, and destroy. So through the reading, we get the remember part, we get the don't forget, but we don't get the destroy part. The destroy part leads to the younger men, and God willing, they will do it the next time. Okay? They were deprived this previous round, so I'm hoping there's enough who have the capacity to do so. And get the job done. Okay, yeah, what was that? Yeah, you live to see this. Okay, so I'm gonna read you something outside from the Daf Yomi people because I really like what they have to say. We mentioned this general sugya. I'll give you the outline so that we can make sure to see all the dayas beforehand. For those that are looking on the screen, I'm sorry I didn't send it. Maybe I could copy and paste it and send it along. Rashi, what we see Rashi said. Shekevan shebracha boni Yerushalayim bracha achrona b'ser brachos ro'i lanos acharei amen. Boni Yerushalayim is the end of a seder, right? A series. Nechin yadim b'brachos acharei shein achronos b'seder brachos. Okay, so whenever you have some sort of order brachas here, so you have an amen. That's Rashi's very liberal understanding. Okay, you basically could have many cases where you have a lot of amens. I wonder what Rashi himself did. The Tosfos say that the only real time we have such a minhag is the Boni Yerushalayim. Rashba explains that according to Rashi, they mention Boni Yerushalayim in the Gemara. If Rashi is correct, there are lots of different cases where a person would say amen to his own brachas after a whole series of brachas that go together. Why is this an example in Boni Yerushalayim? What's that the Gemara's example? Well, because we're talking about the grace. Okay, there we have in context fits. Amanat lomar shafilu bracha Boni Yerushalayim sheshachra bracha shechiva midrabanan omrim racharei amen. So, who are the ones who institute all our blessings? Yashik and Chazal. Okay, they're a form of Chazal. So the chiddush of Bonei Yerushalayim is, technically speaking, you're supposed to say grace according to the Torah. But how you say it, the exact three brachas, that's a rabbinic enactment. It's a rabbinic enactment how to do the mitzvah d'oraisa. And then they threw on an extra bracha. Kamash Balan, Bonei Yerushalayim gets its own self-amen, your own goal, and you say amen, even though the sages have already told you to put on a new bracha. Okay, that's why this one is the biggest chiddush. Bonei Yerushalayim is the biggest chiddush. Okay, because it's the nature of these four brachas. There's a little bit, three of them have one nature, and the last one has a different nature. So that separates them. According to Rashi, within the way the Rashi was explaining him, if you'd have four brachas of all equal status, so you get through a whole series, so you'd say amen after them. So Rashi says there's a main for the Chazan at the Shmona Esrei, Chazaras Hashatz, and your own private Shmona Esrei, there's an amen. And you can think of other examples. Perhaps even would Rashi dispute the Rambam and say that, well, I had three blessings to say before the Megillah this coming Thursday. Okay? You're going to say they're going to have Megillah Thursday night and Friday, right? Three blessings according to our minhag. According to Rashi, maybe the one who's reading the Megillah would say amen after Shech Yanim. Okay? Perhaps. Three blessings. There's room for them. Rambam would say, no, you got to, over Las Yason, those are like the three brachas saying on the Megillah, so you got to read Megillah before saying Amen. The assembled say Amen after each of those three, but the one who is reading the Megillah for everybody would not say so, would not do so. Okay. I think it's a good question. There's a lot to see here. Well, same as Hanukkah. No, you don't say a bracha after. There's no bracha after the lighting of the candles. There's just three brachas beforehand. Yeah, three brachas beforehand. There's room within Rashi's opinion to say Amen. That the Koreh would say these three brachas, and with the third bracha, Shech Yanu, he would say Amen with the congregation before reading the Megillah. Yeah. Okay, that's not what they're going to do, but it's good to consider it. I'm also sorry for you gentlemen. You thought moving to Jerusalem would save you the trouble that normally you break the Tanis Esther fast. You don't have to be in shul for Megillah reading. But this year it's a little bit more complicated. Everybody's going to hear the Megillah Thursday night, right? We've already announced it. Fine. Megillah reading. Does anybody here have the so-called permashulaj? You've all been here enough for. There was one 4 years ago, and there was one like a decade before that, more so 12 years before that. No, sorry, 13 years. Went 13 years without such a thing. So that surprises. Yeah. So they're going to have, the Rambam says, you have your perm suit on Shabbos. He doesn't, it's a big machlokes. The Yerushalmi says explicitly that when perm is on Shabbos, so you have to have your perm meal the day after because it's not nicker. Yeah, there's no, what are you doing differently on Shabbos? You have to make it a Shabbos meal. So the Rambam doesn't hold to that Yerushalmi apparently. I could maybe guess why. For example, Shabbos and Yontif. So you have one Shabbos meal, right? Whereas it's Nikr, it's Yontif. Adarabah, you sort of lose the Yontif meal because Yontif meal, minastam, you make fresh food. You actually slaughter the goat or the pigeon or even the bull and barbecue it right then and there on Yontif. But because Yontif is Shabbos, you're having a regular Shabbos meal, food you prepared before Shabbos. You go back to your children. So you missed out the hecker that this is a Yontif meal. You should have it afterwards. Okay? Maybe that's why the Rambam didn't hold of this Yerushalmi necessarily. That even for Yontif you don't do such a thing. And Purim is supposed to be like a Yontif. So drink more wine. Okay, drink more wine for Shabbos meal. And there were Rishonim who were machmir. You know what? I don't know which way to go. So have a Purim meal on Shabbos and Purim meal on Sunday like everybody else. But the general practice is like Yerushalmi and the Hildagon. You're going to have your Purim meals on Sunday. Okay? You don't say all these. Yeah, that's what they're going to do because the Iker day of Purim is Shabbos. I also wondered, they're saying that you're going to have to read the Torah reading for Purim on Shabbos. That's going to be the mafsir. Everybody else who's not Mukafim, they're just going to read Kisisa and no special mafsir. So you're going to read Avro Amalek is going to be the mafsir. So what's the Haftarah? So they're looking for Haftarah. They're going to read last week's Haftarah again. And it talks about Chemes Amalek. That's a good minhag. I've been wondering about that. I would imagine maybe, just to, for a little variety, come up with a different Haftarah that's appropriate for Purim. But there's very little about battles with the Molech in the Nevi'im. Okay? They haven't found a better candidate or something or an alternative. For example, when you have two Shabbos Hanukkahs, so we have in our back pocket another Haftarah that's appropriate for Hanukkah. It happens to look like the Haftarah for either Vayakal or Pekude, whichever one it is. But how often does that Haftarah get read anyways? Also, it's infrequent, right? Or there's one Haftarah that's used too often, the Song of David, right? They say that on the seventh day of Pesach and when Ha'azinu is its own parsha, right? Okay, maybe they could have thought of something that's a little bit more related to Ha'azinu. Just a guess. Okay, let's see. The Rashba also brings Rabbi Yudai Gon's opinion. Shebesiyum kol brachot shemavrech yesh inyan lalot amen al menat lekabel al minat brachot shebirach. He says maybe you should say amen after every bracha. Okay, let's say just an idea. It's a way of affirmation, accepting and belief in what has been said. Chen katav arosh b'shem Rabbi Gon sheyesh inyan shemavrech yan amen acharei kol bracha. Wait, they don't hold like Shas? Said every time there's a bracha, you said a bracha, say amen. Okay? There is such an issue. Elisha be'emtza siddur brachot ein ben habracha la'ochel anyan amen ma'aveh hefsek. The problem is that if you would do that, maybe it's a hefsek. Let's say before saying you're eating. Zo kavanah gemara she'ein lano damei mishum shezeh mafsik bein habracha la'achila or bein bracha lebracha. Really, you should say amen, but the problem is a lot of times it's a hefsek between the next bracha or what you're going to eat. So you can't say amen. You're just stuck. V'lachenu kotev she'ish lano amen gam lachar birkot haTorah u'birkot ha'haftarah. That's why they held, these Godim held, brachas after, for example, the blessing of the haftarah, okay? Not necessarily a hefsek. Or Birkos HaTorah, person goes up to Leah, he should say his own amen. But the Rambam writes, Shein lamud amen lachar bracha achat, elulak lachar retzef shel kama brachot. Like Rashi said, which means if you only say amen, you only have a hava minute to say an amen to your own bracha if it's part of a series of brachas. The Godim said, technically speaking, by default, every bracha gets your own amen. You said it, say amen. Just sometimes you can't because of the hefsek. Interesting opinion there. There's a brisa in Yerushalmi that says, Kedivra Gaonim. What do they say? Technically speaking, you should say bracha to everything. What does it say? Today HaPoreis, you should teach this. HaPoreis et Shema, V'over lifnei hativa, V'noseh kapav. The person who's the chazan for Kriyas Shema. And the person who's leading the service. That means Shmon Esrei. And the Kohen. Maybe you're a Kohen? There's a blessing. There's technically three blessings. There's Koreh B'Torah, V'amaftir. One who reads the Torah, and the Maftir B'Navi. Okay? Person who's done any of these things does not say amen to his own blessing. Vin ana raise a bur. And if he said it, he's a ignoramus. However, Vitanoitani, raise a chacham. No, you're the exact opposite. Someone who's saying a lot of amens after his own blessings must be a wise person. How can that be? Amar Rav Chisda, Man Damar Harez Chacham, okay? One who says, Rav Chisda says, the Chacham says the amen at the end. You see what that means. Umanda Amar Harez Bur, Boneh al Bracha Uvracha. One of the Bur says a bracha amen after every one of his brachas. The Chacham says it after all of the brachas, the end. So what's the end there? He says, Umashma Shebechol Makom Haoneh B'Sof U'Meshuvach V'Gam B'Sof Brachot HaTorah. Okay? So it must be the person has some sort of series here. At the end, then he's praiseworthy. But the Gra says, according to the Rambam, Hamilim Harezah Chacham Lo Holech Al Kodrim Sheshnuyim B'Baraisa. Okay? Harezah Chacham only referring to the very things mentioned at the end, but not that which is mentioned at the beginning of the Brisa. There the Rambam would say, no, it can't be. There's not a series. That's how the Vilna don't like to understand it. There's one more case here of the Gra. Let me show it here. I'll read this to you. Rav Sri Davlitsky. Anybody heard of him? He passed away a few years ago. I remember he was considered like the authority on teachings of the Vilna Gaon in Bnei Brak. Rav Davlitsky was also known as a Baal Dikta, also as a scholar. Okay? He was one of the first Chelis bearers, and he also had a very trimmed beard. Okay? Unlike men of his stature, he didn't just have long beard. He was very into trimming his beard. That's the look he had. So he wrote, he used to. Hayam Mesayim Birkot Yishtabach V'Shomer Amo Yisrael Ad Im Shliach HaTzibur V'Haya Oneh Acharav Amen. Okay, he would say just as the Chazan was saying it, the Yishtabach, right, and Shomer Amo Yisrael Ad at Mariv, that he could say Amen with the Shliach Tzibur right as he finished it. Why? Why did he do this? Kidei Letzeit Yidei Chovat Shtei Adiyot. He wanted to get at least both major opinions, that just say amen to what the Chazan said, or say amen to what you yourself said. He finishes the Chazan says amen, it can count both ways. Why? He was caring about what? Well, the words of the Gra, which were Sheminhag Ashkenaz hu minhag shelo al pi halacha. Oops. Minhag Ashkenaz doesn't fit the halacha. Minhag Ashkenaz only has amen after B'nai Yerushalayim. That's the example brought in the Gemara, but it must be there are other times where you're supposed to say an amen. Minagohu l'fiyah Magen Avram. Magen Avram was the Ashkenazi. He was Litvish. What did he say? She'af she'ein la'anod amen achar birkot adam acher. Okay? Sometimes you don't have to say amen after someone else's brachas. Kishu musayim et otah bracha. If he himself is finishing that bracha, Okay? So in such a case, you could say a bracha after what someone else said. So here we have it. If you're asking which bracha should I be saying amen at the end of a series, so maybe you should just rely on what you see in your printed in your siddur. There is already major opinions that show that it should just be B'nai Yerushalayim. It certainly belongs somewhere else. The only question is where else. If you were to follow Rashi, you'd put it in a lot of other places. If you follow the Rambam, perhaps a little bit less. I don't know. The jury's still out on this. Even the Spartan, they're not 100% consistent. You know where they say amen. They say it as Shmon Esrei. But after, let's say, the Hallel, for example, there's what to say, even though that might be considered a sort of series, because there's a bracha before Hallel and bracha after Hallel. According to the Rambam, that's not a series. The bracha before Hallel was just like brachas a mitzvah. And it's just one bracha after Hallel. That's just one bracha on its own. No series. There's no amen here. That would be a machlokas, the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch, for example. So, yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait until the Sanhedrin arises and clarifies this issue for us. I hope that there be some set rule in Israel. But, yeah, technically speaking, yeah, that's a Rambam bracha. Okay? But before the Haftarah, a person wouldn't say amen, obviously, because it's just one bracha. Okay? Yeah, like I said, the jury's still out on this. We'll close with one line about what's supposed to be when the temple's rebuilt. What we do when the temple's rebuilt? Yeah, what? Yeah. So whichever one's the last one gets the amen. Yeah. Yeah. They're confused by what you do on the fast day. Although, according to the Rambam, there is no series of brachas on the fast day that doesn't involve the bracha of Mekadesh. Okay? There's always four brachas. If it's not a day where you would say this fourth bracha, then there is no haftarah. Yeah? So there you go. What do they do on Yom Kippur afternoon? According to their minhag, on Yom Kippur afternoon at Mafter Yonah, they say Mekadesh Yisrael v'Yom HaKippurim, unlike the Ashkenazic practice. So there they have it. And if it's a fast day during the week, they don't have a haftarah. So there's no really naftamina for them. I like the Vilna Gaon gives an answer. The Vilna Gaon says at Yom Kippur in the afternoon we don't have that fourth bracha at Mafter Yonah. Why? Because the haftarah is occasioned not because of the kedusha of the Yontif or the Shabbos. It's because it's a fast day, and a fast day during the week there's no bracha on the kedusha of the day. They don't have it, and that resolves the contradiction. Normal Ashkenazic practice has minhag art scroll Kolamoid Sukkis. The bracha at the Haftarah incorporates Shabbos and Yisrael and Hazmanim. The Chol Moed Pesach, the Shabbos Chol Moed Pesach, the Haftarah for the dry bones, the final bracha just says Mekadesh Yisrael, no, Mekadesh HaShabbat, not Yisrael and Hazmanim. And they say because the Shabbos Chol Moed Sukkos is like a new holiday, every day of Sukkot is like a new holiday, but Chol Moed Pesach is not. And the Vilna says, no, one din for all the Chol Moed, Shabbos Chol Moed, it's because of Shabbos and not the Moed you're saying it. It's just the Kaddish of Shabbos. Okay? Even on Sukkot. Okay. I guess that'll bring us any questions, comments? No? Okay. This year, just like we saw, we compare this to Hanukkah. Right? Hanukkah time, people have forgotten the lessons of Hanukkah. The lessons of Purim are sometimes they really want to destroy us. And once they make it known who wants to destroy you, the Jewish thing and to celebrate is we have to destroy them. Not because we're bloodthirsty, but because we need to. It's what God expects of us so we can live to keep all the other commandments. So it's a shame that we celebrate this time that all of Israel's enemies were destroyed then and we had a holiday. So too, may all of Israel's enemies be similarly destroyed by us soon. And in the best way possible, and we should have a new holiday for that.